Hello and good morning and welcome back to, welcome to I should say, to the new channel for those of you watching on Facebook and for those of you watching on YouTube. Nothing seemingly has changed too much apart from the layout that you see on screen. So let me just correct that camera. I've also knocked it while I was getting ready. There we go. That's a bit better. So, I hope you've had a fabulous holiday weekend and have done lots of crafting. But it's time to kind of finish our album project. So, without too much further ado, last time we got so far as having our outside of our folder and then having our sort of inner end pages done, ready for putting in whatever we want to put in the middle here. So you have a couple of options, and I hope everybody can hear me okay. If not, let me know. I've moved the mic. But we have the option of doing individual pages the same way as we created our end papers, and you're just going to reduce the amount of glue tab that you have with each subsequent layer so that it all folds nicely. And that's really a good idea for those of you that really want to go to town on your layouts and add lots of dimensional embellishments. Good morning, Thea. Or you can do what I've done, and I've actually created little signatures, but let's show you how I've done that. So I have a spare one here. And all I've done is, rather than getting the ScanNCut to cut all my pages, because I've only got 12 by 12 papers in this range, I just cut it at 8 inches and scored it at 6. Okay. Now, my papers are single-sided, so how you cope with that is really up to you. But I've kind of done a bit of a mix where I've got my full double page spread in the middle. And then in this one, I've gone so that I've done half and half. Then in these ones, what I've done instead, if I can find one that hasn't done that. No, I'm not going to do it. Okay, fine. So with that, what you can do instead, if you want to, is actually stick your blank sides together so that you have thicker pages. So that's good again if you're going to be going with heavier embellishments, but this time they're going to be slightly thinner, so we want to not be building up too much depth to use these particular signatures. So how do we bind them together? And one mum, we start by opening out our signature so that we've got our fold line down the middle. And my advice would be to invest in a long reach stapler. Now you can kind of fiddle it and fake it with a shorter reach stapler by going right to the very ends of your papers, but you'll struggle to get them straight. So firstly, before you do this, just check that you are happy that all your papers are facing the right way. If you're not sure, then just have a quick flick through, double check, and when you're happy, I'm just going to flip that one around. I think that's going to work better that way. We're going to slide it into our stapler. Now I've got mine set just beyond the 6-inch mark, because this time, rather than having the staples on the back edge of the fold, I want to try and get them on the fold. Okay, so just hold your papers in line, and you're going to staple them outwards. Okay, and we're going to do the same this end. So again, make sure your papers are in line. Okay, so we have our staples into the middle, and the reason we do it that way is then when we actually bind in our signature, the sharp bits of our staples are going to be hidden. Okay, so once you've done that, let's bring these back in. So let's talk about how much of an inner that you want. So if you're going to be doing this like a little notepad, for instance, so you're not going to have lots of dimensional embellishments, then you can get away with putting 3 signatures in. Okay. If you're going to be using like stuck in photographs and things like I'm planning on doing, you can go down to just the 2, so they'll sit a little bit inside our end paper here, and let's show you how to actually bind those in. So I'm going to start off by creating myself a little bit of a tab. So all we need to do that is a little bit of an offcut, and because I want it to be kind of fabricy, I'm just going to use an offcut with this satin-like paper. So let's just see if I can get that to pick that pattern up. So you've got like this satiny swirl through it. Okay, so that's not working as a position for the microphone. That's a shame, because I was hoping it was going to be a little bit better. Let's try it up there. So let me know how that goes, if there's any interference on it. So I'm just going to get a trimmer. And bring that in. And I just need some little strips of paper. So in this case, we've got this nice straight edge up here, and I think I might use that one. So just to check, let's grab my cover, and I want it to fit nicely within our fold line here. That fits really nicely, so that'll do. So I'm going to trim this first of all where it starts to curve round. Okay, I'm going to do the same at the other end. So hopefully you can see that okay. Okay, so that's going to give me a little strip. Like so. Okay, now I need to cut that in half. And you could do that with your little guillotine if you want. Now I'm only eyeballing this, it doesn't have to be exact. So take your time, get a nice cut, and there we go. So you should have 2 pieces. With that done, time for the scoreboard. And you can choose if you want to instead do this next step around a cocktail stick, so you get a nice rounded fold, or we can go for a nice sharp fold. The choice is yours. I'm going to get my bone folder, and I'm going to score this roughly in half. Okay, then we're going to fold that over. We're going to do it in such a way that we keep that fold a bit looser. Okay, and we're going to do the same. It doesn't have to be perfectly in half, it just needs to have enough for you to be able to stick it in and down. Okay, so again, nice and loosely. Set the scoreboard to one side. Now, you could use wet glue for this, but just because of time, I'm just going to grab a little bit double-sided tape. Okay, and find which is your shorter edge. Try and straighten that up a little bit. Okay, and that's the edge that you're going to apply your tape to, so the shorter of the 2. And I'm going to put that tape right down the bottom. I'm going to pop that back shut. Again, keep it so that end bit is nice and open. And we're going to do the same on this one. So see which is the shorter bit, apply the tape to the shorter bit. So now we should have two pieces that look like this, and we're going to stick those into our spine of our cover. So let's get that next. Now I'm going to position these the longest bits on top, so we've got a nice neat finish, but chances are you won't see it anyway. It's just me being me. So let's pop some more double-sided tape just along that back section. Try and leave it free of the fold so you can see how to stop about half a centimetre away from the end, there or thereabouts. Now there's no load bearing on this, so I don't mind just using a little bit double-sided. It's just going to tidy up where those two bits of our cover meet. So if you're doing the method where you're using the glue tabs to hold your pages in, you can skip this step. So again, away from that fold. Now I do have lots of embellishments that are ready to go for this, so I'm just going to stick this down slightly further than the edge of our paper, but within our cover here. Stick that down and make sure that it all sits nicely when we actually close that outer cover. So far so good. So while those are kind of setting into place, let's offer these up. So with my signatures, I want them to sit kind of slightly inside the edges of our tape here. So about there. And you also want to make sure that they're lining up with our papers here. Now to stick these in, rather than trying to stitch through, and yeah, that just won't work, we're going to actually use our papers to stick these in. So I had a couple of sheets where I didn't have quite enough height to make a full page, so I thought this would be a really good idea to kind of tie these into our cover. Is actually we're going to use this kind of seemingly back to front, and the reason being that when we actually come to close our cover, we're going to get a peek of our end paper there. So you need to decide which one you want to have where. Okay, I think I might just go for that one in there. So if we do it that way round, then you can see that we've got little bits of the flowers actually kind of popping through. Okay, and we'll have the other one. So I've got the stripy one for the front, and again that's going to sit in there. Let's go that way around so that we've got our longest edge to the front. Okay, the next thing that we need to decide before we do any sticking at all is how we want that end paper then to interact with our little signature. The reason being, if we open this up, we're going to see that it's very slightly shorter in height. Okay, so what you could do is you could keep it like that, so that's going to reinforce our front cover of our signature. We could cut a little aperture to reveal that pattern behind if you want, or we can do a fancy decorative edge down this edge so that we just use just that first little bit of an inch just to stick that signature in. And it really does depend on how much weight you're going to put into your actual signatures. So for this one, I think it might be fun to do a bit of an aperture in here. So we're going to be heading to this right hand side. So let's show you what I've been kind of setting up over the weekend and introduce the new camera a little bit. So let's set that to one side. I'm going to bring in my map. Now make sure that you have your inserts up the right way. So in this case I know this is going to fit because it's a 12 by 12 piece of paper. If you're working on a bigger journal, then you would just rotate it around 90 degrees and just bear that in mind when you do your cutting. Okay, so you can use some coloured masking tape just to highlight where that fold is, but because it's on that 6-inch line, when I can put my teeth in, we should be able to see that fairly easily on our map without having to do any scanning in. And again, we're at 7.5 inches tall from this particular insert. So if we look at our papers in relation to that, we're going to want to have our aperture sitting around, let's pick one that we think will work well. So this line here is probably the most central point. So if I go to the top of that, that's 2 inches down. To the bottom of it is about 2 3/4. So if we do something that actually fills a bigger shape like that, we should hopefully surround that hello. Likewise, if we want to go up, we can measure that by your 2. So we're looking about 8.5 and about 10 inches that way. So let's see how that looks. So I'm going to wake up the ScanNCut first. Let's take my blade out. Wait for it to wake up. I'm a bit of a go slow this morning. And let's go okay. So next, I'm going to cancel that. Don't need that anymore. So let's load the map. Okay, so we're going to go to pattern, and let me grab my pencil, save me using my fingers, so you can see it a bit better then. And we could go and do a design in there, but just for ease, just because it's an aperture, let's keep it nice and simple. I'm going to go down to basic shapes. Let's pick something that's a little bit more interesting than normal. That might work well. Let's try that one. Okay, so when we did our measurements, we were looking about 8.5 to 10 inches. So that's going to be about 1.5 inches. So let's make that width come down just a fraction to about 2, maybe 2.5, so that we get plenty of room for manoeuvre. Okay, and that's going to give us 1.25 inch height. So at any point I can kind of come in and look at my actual booklet and go, okay, I need to come in about there. We can measure, but usually just the grid can help us on our cutting mat. So I'm in for this one, so we're looking at about there to about there, so 2 inches. By adding that half on, we're giving ourselves a leeway. And then in terms of height, we probably want to take it up to about here. So if I put my baseline on 1 inch mark on my map and then look at the halfway point, we're looking at about 1 inch tall. So we should be good to go there. So let's add that onto our mat. Okay, so we've added that on. Now we need to move it and get it where we want it to. So if we line that up on the 6 inch mark on our cutting mat, and we're going to go ting, 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 at 8.5. So over just a little bit more. about there, and that's going to come to about 10.5, so that's not bad. Now for our height, I want it to come in at about 2 inches down to 3 inches for the finish. So again, that's not bad. So fingers crossed, and if it goes wrong, it's only a piece of paper. And morning, Linda, you snuck in then. Okay, so let's go back to that one, and I'm going to go OK. Actually, just for a second, let's go top. We're going to go to cut, and because my paper is more paper than card, I'm going to use the vinyl blade, or you could use the blue manual blade. It's a basic shape, so you can have your speed a little bit faster. It's not going to hurt too much. And let that go. Okay. Let's take it off. Get it cut okay. My blade's just starting to show its age a little. Come on. There we go. So, ta-da. So now we have our lip window, and let's pop that over the top, would be good. And you can see that just there. So we've got our hello popping through our aperture. So let me know if you want to just show that again. But I think I'm happy with that there. So then we can stick that down, and we can stick that into our book. Now, for speed today, I'm going to be using double-sided tape, but what I would advise is just adding a little bit of wet glue to that, just to give you a bit of longevity into your pages. Double-sided tape does not stick forever. You also want to make sure that whichever tape you use is acid free when it comes to scrapbooking, otherwise it can yellow and it can bleed through your papers. Okay, so let's peel that one off. Now, if you're doing an aperture like this, the other thing I would say, and I would do this with old glue, is just have a little bit of glue that's just going to go round like so. Okay, I'm going to stick to the double-sided tape. So just give it a little squeeze, and hopefully you'll be good to go. If you're using PVA, you can do the dot method instead. Okay, so let's get our cover, and I'm just going to offer that up so that we try and get the height right. Okay, let's flip that over. So I'm going to give it a bit of a curve just to try and make our lives a little easier. I'm going to take that up to the edge of my paper because, like I said before, we know that our paper is the right width, it's just slightly shorter in height. There's our hello. Press down. There we go. And then we're ready to stick that into the front of our cover. So this is going to be stuck, so it's up against this front edge. Okay, so when we're sticking our booklet in, we want to make sure that it's level. And if it helps, you can do some little pegs just to kind of keep everything in place. So I'm just going to grab a little binder clip. Put that one just there. Just so we know that that's level. If it's not quite, just work with it until it is. And the bits you want to look at for checking that is actually your scallop paper here, because it may be that your actual liner paper here isn't quite the same height as your pages, and that's fine. Okay, so once we've got that lined up and we're happy with that, I'm going to fold this over, check that our end paper is going to kind of meet that, but instead of meeting it over here, we actually want it to kind of meet there. So that's going to hold our signature into our book. Give it a quick spin just so that you check it from both sides, and then you shouldn't have any gapping. We want it so that it's going to fit nicely. Okay, so if it is shifting a little, just take your time, where it needs to go. Make sure it's level to your spine. That's the most important bit. It's just making sure that it's parallel to that score line. Okay, and when you're happy with that, let's pop that one in with a little bit of tape to give us that initial grab. Now, you could put your tape along this edge, and it will kind of do the result for you that you might be wanting to get. But a little bit of advice, let's move that in slightly, and that's going to give us a little bit of wiggle room, like so. Let's press that down and peel off the backing tape. We are nearly there, so then we can do the fun stuff. Okay, so I'm going to give that a good bit of glue that side. Now on this side we're going to stop about an inch short. Okay, and instead we're going to move over to our end paper here, and I'm just going to do little dots and towards the inside of our scallop, so don't go edge to edge, just inside. Okay, now in theory, when we then lift these two up, we should be able to get them perfectly aligned without any squidging of glue. Okay, so then at this point we're going to remove our little binder clip. Press it down there, flick that back. Okay, and you should have something that looks like this with our little booklet in. Okay, next one. So in case you're thinking that's upside down, let's do it around the right way. So there's our cover, then we've got our hello that we've just done, then your pages. Okay, now if you're getting some bubbling like I have there, press it down, but then also try not to worry, because a lot of your wrinkles will actually dry out as your glue dries. So let's fit that one. And on to our next signature. Now if you're doing a 3 signature one, what you're going to want to do is to join that middle signature to your front and your back. So do your back one first, then pop your middle one in. So we're going to just add this one in here. And again, you get to make a choice whether you want to have that bit of your flower detail actually popping through your layer here, or if you just want to have the white, like so. Choice is yours. So I'm going to go this way, and probably when I do the layout of that, I'll do something a little bit funky in terms of bringing these dots through into my layout. So again, I'm going to use my clip just to hold that in place, and I want it lined up over the top of my previous signature. Here, clip in place. Again, don't be afraid to just lift it and wiggle it just to get it in the right place. There we go. Okay, so just to stop that being a little bit annoying on your desk, I'm just going to flick that one so that the light is flatter. Okay. So that's going to work there. Check it's the right way up. Let's go double-sided tape on this one. So while I think of it, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you may not realise that we have a new Facebook page, which is facebook.com/plannercraft Ltd UK. No, UK Ltd, get it the right way around. Oh geez, it's new. We also have a new website link as well. So that is plannercraft.co.uk. So before we've always had to say no co, but yes, we finally took the plunge and have the .co.uk. And you'll find our online store, it's at that address. And on there we've got the latest issue of our magazine, both in digital and in print, as well as our foils and some other goodies. So let's just get that open so I don't get fingers too mucky. And again, I'm going to line that up on that edge. Take your time. So I'm just going to remove that pin just very temporarily and pop it back over the top. There we go. Place that down. Dink, 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 dink. So yes, there are also going to be some other new goodies that are going up on the online shop over the course of the next few days. So they will be mainly digital downloads while we're kind of catching up with all the other bits and pieces. So things like the products that were on Buy Me a Coffee are going to be on the new site. Those that are on CF Fans will be on the new site. and then we will look at bringing back the membership options as well. So, okay, and then here, and let's get that up and over. And now release that pin before you try and open it up. Otherwise, things are going to go a bit haywire. So let's just press that down. We're going to close it that way and lift up our spine. That's the important bit, lift up your spine. So support it with one hand under here and press it down like so. We'll work the other way as well. So again, support the spine. Okay. Now, if we flip this open, before we do anything else, let's just press everything down and make sure that we're happy that everything is seated. Now you're going to see that there's a little bit of a gap just here. That's okay. That's normal because basically when this closes up, our spines are going to pull into in here. Now, this is where you have to make a choice because you can either put in this third signature or not. So let's have a look. So if we put that in, it's going to look like that. So if you're finding that you've got a really big gap in the middle, that third signature might be what you need to do to kind of seal that gap. Okay, so I think with mine, I'm going to try and do it without, I think, there I am. So let's see if we can actually get these two to meet. So the other way of testing, let's close this up and let's see if those two were kind of stuck together, how's that going to work? And I think it might just be a bridge too far. So let's go one in the middle. If you do that and you find it's meeting nicely and it's not pulling too much to the sides, go for it. I'm just chickening out because I've done such a lovely job so far, I don't want to ruin it. Okay. So with this one, what we can do is we can actually stick them together. So you can kind of decide how you want to do that. I think for this one, I'm actually going to keep these two kind of floating and just have it stuck down this edge here. So let's get the tape in. You'll notice I'm not going all the way to the spine. You kind of want to keep the actual fold bit clear. Yeah, I'm totally chickening out of pulling that across because I'm like, I probably do need the broom, but okay. I'll just put a really thin roll of the glue over the top, so I'm not squeezing it at that point, it's just like literally the minimum amount. And let's put this into place on top. Over the top we go. If you're very slightly out, let's just bring that back in. Just a little bit too low for my liking. close my book when I'm happy and get my hand in there. Okay, so there we go. First bit done. So now that we've done that, I'm just going to press that down, and I've done it up the wrong way, haven't I? Yes, I have. I'm a naughty. Hey ho. Me going so careful. And down I go again. Just going to pull that back. There we go. And inside, give it a little press down. And there we go. We have a hook. And we have our join there. And what we can do is we can turn that into a pocket if you want to. Or if you want to do a similar effect where we had the aperture, you can always do that by hand. But you'll probably find that as you go through, you kind of change what you do as you do each layout. So now we just want to make sure that all of that is kind of pressed together as much as possible. Okay, and then we have a book. So you can see that we've left that spine kind of floating just a little bit, just to try and help it move, especially as we start to do lots of embellishment on it. You're going to find that they kind of want to shift a little. Okay, so there we go. Our little book is done. Now it's all about the fun bits. So it's all about the decorating it. So I did have a few ideas that I wanted to look at today. So I am going to save that little bit of aperture because you never know when you might want to pop that into your pages. Things like that where it's basic shapes are easily reusable. And just for this front, I'm going to let a photo frame. So you could cut this on your ScanNCut. You don't have to have a pre-made one. And you can even turn these into shakers and things. So and let's take these out. We've got lots of different colours. So we've got pink, white, the kind of peachy colour, the green, or the darker green. So let's see which one kind of pops the best. So we have our pink one. It doesn't quite match our pink on there, so let's try the orange. So try and pick first of all colours that are actually in the papers already. Now these are die cut, so just peel them apart carefully. Okay, and then we can try a contrasting one like the dark green and just see which we think. That looks a bit boring. Shows up better, but it looks a bit boring, so let's try the green. Yeah, quite like that. Okay, so before I actually stick this down, let's see what we've got in our papers that we can use as a backing. So I'm going to just put my folder just off to one side for a second while I do this next step. Pop the lid back on my glue, don't want any accidents. Okay, so I have some little offcuts just here from where I did my pages. So we can go, actually, do I think that might work well? I think that might be the best option out of the three that I have here. So let's go with that. Now when these are kind of kiss cut so that they can stay in the sheet, you have these little notches. So I'm just going to try and tidy that up with scissors. You can also use like a nail file just to smooth those off. If you have a silhouette, you can actually cut like this too. So if you want to do yourself a sheet of embellishments to match the design, you can actually kiss cut it and then keep them as a sheet ready to use. Okay, so I've filled that off. Now we kind of need to decide which bit of the dots we want. So if you're working with a paper that has flowers, for instance, or any kind of repeating pattern, you can actually choose which bit of the pattern you want to use. Now sometimes you can get your ScanNCut to actually cut this out for you, but for something like this it's pretty easy to just nip in there with scissors. So if I go this way around, I'm going to use the least amount of paper. There we go. Press that down, and that's okay, Thea. Have fun, enjoy your meal, and we'll see you next week. So we will be back next week with something entirely different. So this weekend is International Scrapbook Day. So the whole point of this project is that you had it ready to go. So there are going to be lots of scrapbook challenges, not just on our page but also elsewhere, which you are probably going to want to join in with. So if, like me, you're having a bit of a I don't really want to make cards anymore, then that is something to get involved with. There we go. So then I've got this floral paper here. Now it seems a shame to kind of throw that bit away. There's lots of usable sections that we can actually cut out. So let's pop that onto our cutting mat. Now, as usual, when we want to scan something and it's a smaller size, to give us our best scope, we're going to stick it 1 inch in, 1 inch in that way, 1 inch down that way. Try and do it the right way around. There we go. Oh dear. So let's pop on over to our screen and wake up the ScanNCut. It's gone back off to sleep again. Come on, wake up. There we go. So we can go home to reset, OK to delete, into scan, and we want to cut directly out of the card that's on the mat, so we're going to go direct cut. We can then decide if we're going to use the machine or canvas to actually do that trace function. To be honest, for what we want, let's just get the machine to do it. Now, if you have something where you have quite a high contrast between your decor and your background, then you can stick in black and white regardless of what actual colour it is. If it's not quite so obvious, swap to colour and let's see how we go. Okay, so last time I was using this, it was drawing, so it's going to go move your scanner lever, so we're going to lower that down on the left hand side of the machine. If you're on a CM, obviously there's no scanner lever, so you don't need to worry about that. Then we can type start. Okay, so now we're going to frame our image. So we're going to drag our arrows in to the inside the edge of our papers. And I would recommend just taking it in that just that little bit rather than trying to leave it around the outside. Okay, and we'll go okay. Just going to have a think about it. And it's pulled up not only the flower details, but also you can see that we've got some few extra bits and pieces around these outside edges. So the quickest way to kind of fix that to start with is let's go to ignore object size, and we're going to take that up. As you do that, you're going to see that the shapes around the outside start to fade away. Okay, now there are going to be some bigger ones where they're on the edge, but we're not going to be able to get that big enough without losing some of our detail that's on the actual inside of our flower. So we're going to go okay for now, and okay again. We're going to do an offset because we want to have a little bit of a border around. I'm just going to take the whole one notch, and you're going to see straight away that that has sorted out quite a few of the elements where they were looking a bit like it was going to cut round inside. Again, we can go okay. Now, the difference between the CM and the SDX range is that when we go to this next step, we can actually edit and choose by hand which pieces that we actually want to keep in. So I'm going to go to edit, and we can use our arrow keys to actually flick between shapes, and we can choose to delete them. Now, if you're on the CM, you don't have quite that level of control, so you can always just cut them and then discard them after. That one isn't quite right, so I'm going to delete that one too. And the same for this little one down the bottom, just there. Okay, we can go okay at that. Okay again. Please select cut, and then we can cut those out. Now I'm using the vinyl blade at the moment, so when you're doing direct cuts and things like that, typically your scan is going to pick up a lot more detail. So you're going to find that you're going to want to use a finer blade to kind of pick that up. Unless you're doing something where you've got like lots of dots on the background, in which case the black water blade is absolutely fine. So what do you think of the new setup with being able to see what the ScanNCut is actually up to instead of just watching a countdown screen? This is very much still testing it out at the moment in terms of how much we can do with it. Can even have a quick tidy up. let's see how that did. Now, if you're not sure that it's gone round as much as you would like it to, I'm just going to send it round one more time. Yeah, it is good to be able to see it actually do the cutting as well as being able to see the screen as well, without too much moving cameras and things. So they are on the same mount though, so I'm pretty much stuck in terms of angle, but I can actually move it kind of up and down on the actual software so that you can see more of the map. And when we do things like the 3D thumbprints, pen holders and the Sharpie pen holder, we can actually kind of move that down a bit so that you can see the top of that too. So when you send it round again, you can hear that kind of high sort of scratchy sound. That just means it wasn't quite cut through, and it's just doing those sections that you haven't quite managed. So what I'll do, and just for finishing off, is I will finish off the outside cover, and then as we go through the sort of rest of summer, I will give you quick updates on what I've done with the actual contents of the actual binder too. So I have lots of different elements that we can bring in. Just trying to very gently get these off the mat. There we go. Let's unload the mat, and then we can show you overhead. There we go. So we have our flowers ready to go. So I'm just going to peel those carefully off. So if you bend your cutting mat, rather than trying to bend the item that you've cut, particularly on detail cuts, you're going to find it easier to get them off without them curling up too much. Another little tip is, if you're doing something where you're getting lots of tiny elements like this, then if you apply your double-sided tape first, leave the backing on, and then keep an old mat, and you can actually apply it double-sided to your old mat, and then that will hold your papers in place. And then you've got stickers ready to go. So there we go. So we can go. Okay, I'm thinking that one just there would be nice. We can save these others for other parts of our book. So I do have a little tub off to one side that has all the embellishments in that match. And let's go with that one just there. Now we could go 3D that up actually. So let's get some 3D foam. I'm just going to cut a strip off like so. Peel the solid bit off, and then we can fit that around our design. So if you have something where you have lots of leaves, pointy petals, that kind of thing, something like this can actually be really useful just to kind of fit around our petals or our leaves. And there's lots of ways that we can actually build these up. So if you wanted to then do that same cut out of some white card, you could use that to build up your layers. So I'm just going to use this little T-shaped piece just on this leaf here. Let's just see if we can just squeeze that in there. There we go. So we just need to peel off all our little bits of backing. And that's usually what takes the time. Let's just rescue that piece out there so it didn't get thrown away by accident. We can choose which way around it wants to go. I think that way. And then we just need to do a little bit of cutting for our title of our album, whatever you choose to call it. So again, I'll pop that up on the finished photo so that you can see what I've gone with. Now we could turn that into a frame just by not sticking this top edge and by putting some acetate in there, but I think for this one, because I'm going to build it up with my sentiment on here, that is absolutely fine. Bit of double-sided tape, and when we're doing the double-sided tape I'm going to try and keep to the actual frame areas around the outside, just so if it does yellow it's going to be hidden. We've got more of an area at the top than at the side, so I'll pop some up at the top and then down the side very gently, one down the middle. And then we can peel the backing off. Okay, and that's going to go just there, like so. So that's just lifted just there, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue underneath. There we go. No, it's going to have a nope, not sticking. Okay. Find me a bit of glue. Where it's gone? I'll put it away. That's never good. So I'll do that after. It's fine. So what I'm thinking is some nice bold text that I'm going to cut and mount here, and a little subtext that we can put on a little ribbon coming out of here. And that's going to mimic the style for the rest of the embellishments so that everything keeps a consistent look. So one way that you could do that is by matching fonts. So if you want to know the font that something is created in, you can use things like What the Font and Adobe Capture to actually find the closest font that you have access to. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you love the little album, and I want to see yours. So on the group, don't be afraid to share what you make. We're a really friendly bunch, and we all want to see that you actually have a go and break out your ScanNCut as part of your journal making. So take care, and I will see you same time next week when we will be starting something very different. So take care and bye.